Hello everyone and welcome to Zuper. Here is a complete overview of Zuper's general settings. As you know, Zuper is the most customizable field service management solution on the market. But how do you access the customization and configuration settings in Zuper? You can access them on our settings page. To reach the settings page, you can click on the settings icon on the left. You can also click on the profile icon and select the settings button. Let's start with account settings. You can find account settings under general settings. This section will display all your general account settings. You can see your user details, such as your employee code, first name, last name, designation, email address, and contact information. The data listed on this page is editable. Now that it's been covered, let's see how you can change the password of your account. To do this, click on the Next tab, enter your current password, enter a new password, and confirm the new password. Once you've done this, click on Update to make changes to the password of the logged-in user. Next, you have the time zone, language, date, and time format. If you would like to configure the product to a different time zone, update the language of the product, or make changes to the date and time formats that are seen in the product, you can make those changes here by clicking on the respective tab. Once you've made the changes, click on Update Settings to save them. Finally, you have the API key section. For any integrations that need an API key, you can use this section to generate the API key. To do so, click on the New API Key button, enter a name for the API, and click on Create. A new API key will be generated. You can use this API key for your integrations or for any configuration that you would like to do. Next is the Organization Settings, which contain all the granular settings for each module. Clicking on Organization Settings will first show you the general settings. This consists of the following: business hours, where you can define what the organization's business hours are. Maximum date to round off, so any rounding off that's happening in the product can be set to the maximum number of digits. Distance metric, so you can set that between kilometers and miles. Job settings. There are a bunch of job settings here where you can granularly define what needs to be done and what permissions are defined for each employee. Let's go through each of them. Job prefix, where you can generalize the job title for all jobs. Can team leaders access all jobs or field executives across teams? If you select yes, all team leaders will have access to all the jobs. If you select no, team leaders will only have access to the jobs of their respective team's field executives. Can field executives access all jobs of a customer? If you select yes, field executives will have access to all the jobs of a customer that they've been assigned to. If one job from a customer is assigned to their field, they can go into the Customers tab and view all the respective jobs for that customer. Allow field executives to access their past and assigned jobs. This will let them access their jobs that have been completed. Can field executives create new jobs? This will give them permission to create new jobs. Can field executives view jobs without punch-in? If you select yes, field executives will be able to view jobs without punching in. If you select no, field executives will be required to punch in before they can start working on a job or view a job. Require facial authentication for viewing jobs. If you select yes, field technicians will not be able to view jobs unless they provide facial authentication. Can field technicians reschedule jobs? This will allow field technicians to reschedule jobs. Can field executives edit jobs? This will give your field team permission to edit jobs. Can field executives view other assigned users? This will give the field executive permission to view other technicians that have been assigned to the job. If you select no, users will not be able to see other technicians that have been assigned to the job. Can field executives accept or reject jobs? This option brings in an intermediate layer between the field technicians. Once the job is assigned to them, they will be given the option to either accept or reject the job. Based on the acceptance and rejection, you can also have other options set up, such as the job being assigned or the job being scheduled to a different technician. The accept option can be set as a trigger within the system. Next, you have the type of view for field executives. In the Jobs tab, you have 3 different views that you can provide to the field technician. List view, where the technician can see all the jobs as a list. Route view, where the technician can see all the jobs in a route view. In this view, the technician will only see the routes that have been assigned to them and the general jobs view will not be available. Both, where the technician gets a drop-down to select between the list view and route view. Allow sending public links to customers. If you select yes, you will be able to select which status this needs to be done on. For example, if you select the complete status, you will allow users to send out public links or channel links to customers on the completed status. Enable time log for a job. If you select yes, this will enable the job level punch in and punch out. You can also set the punch in status type and the punch out status type. In this case, I have selected started for punch in and completed for punch out. This means that our technician will be automatically punched in and punched out on the job level. This is not related to the regular punch-in, which is there for attendance. This is related to a job worker, which will help us determine how long the technician has worked on a respective job. Alert job or time off conflicts upon assignment. If you select yes, you will get an alert when you are assigning a job to a technician and he already has a job for it. Or if there is time off and a job is being assigned in the same, you will get an alert for that. Enable recurring jobs. If you select yes, you will be able to create recurring jobs. Default job card email template. If you set a job card over here, it will be used as a default job card template whenever a job card is not selected by default. Route settings. Allow the route rescheduled to the past. If you select yes, you will be able to create routes for the past as well. This can be useful for creating routes just for reference. Allow field executives to optimize their routes. If you select yes, technicians will be able to optimize their routes from their location. This will help technicians to re-optimize routes from any location they are present at. Message settings. Notify job-created employees. If you select yes, the employee assigned will be notified anytime a job is created. If any other employees would need to get a notification when a job is being created, you can set their IDs here, and the respective employee will also receive a notification. Customer settings. Moving further into customer settings, you have the respective granular customer settings as well. So going there, the first item here is selecting a unique field for customers. Setting this field will mark the customer's uniqueness, and based on that, you can manage duplicate customers. Show bad debt alert upon choosing a customer. If you select yes, you will get an alert every time a new job is created for a customer who has bad debt. Allow payment card on file. If you select yes, you will be able to collect the customer's card details. Enable billing cycle. If you select yes, you can enable the billing cycle for your customers. Can field executives create a new customer? This will give the field executives permission to create a new customer. Can field executives edit customers' details? This will give them permission to edit existing customer details. Can field executives view all customers? This will give the field executives access to view all the customers in the product. Does the field executive require facial authentication to view customers? If you select yes, a field technician will be required to provide facial authentication before they can view a particular customer. Can field executives view customers without punching in? If you select yes, this will make it mandatory for the technician to punch in before viewing any customer. This is in correlation with face authentication as well. Does the customer need an account manager? You can mark that as yes and set respective account managers for each account. Enable geolocation in address. This will collect the geo-coordinates of an address by default. Moving on, here's parts settings. In parts settings, you can set a prefix for the parts. Every time a new part or product is created, the respective prefix will be added to them by default. Mark the inward purchase price difference and set that to the average or the latest price. Choose the module to track part consumption. Setting the respective module will dictate which module is going to track the respective parts consumption. For example, if this is set as jobs, every time an inventory item is added to a job, the respective inventory item will be subtracted from the inventory. In the same way, if it's set as the invoice, every time a product is added to the invoice, that is when it will be subtracted from the inventory. Notify if stock is running below threshold quantity. If you mark that as yes, it will ask you to enter the respective email address. So every time the stock goes below the set minimum quantity, an email will be sent to the respective email address that you set up here. Next, let us move on to the timesheet settings that will enable attendance tracking for the employees. The first setting is to enable timesheets. Once you enable timesheets, you can track your respective technician's location as well. Require timesheet for managers. If you want managers to punch in and punch out as well, you can set that as yes. Notify punch in or punch out. This will give us notifications for the respective punch in and punch out. Allow field technicians to edit punch in and punch out timings. This will give your field technicians an option to correct any mistakes so that no manual intervention is required from the team leader. Allow entering remarks. This will give the technician a field where they can enter any feedback or remarks once they punch in or punch out. Punch in, break, and punch out options. Require facial authentication. The technician requires facial authentication to function. You can enter a pop-up message for the punch-in activity. Can geofencing be enabled? If you select yes, you can set up a required geofence and required geolocation so that the technician can only punch in from that location. Enforce the same punch-out location as the punch-in. If you select yes, the technician has to punch out from the location that they have punched in from. Break options. Set facial authentication for taking a break. Display a pop-up message every time a break is taken. Total break time. Punch-out options. Required facial authentication. Pop-up message. Collect employee feedback. This will collect the employee's feedback on their current day so that it can be tracked internally. Can the employee be punched out automatically once the shift is over? You can mark this as yes, and you can set this either to a fixed time, where you set all employees to be logged out at a given time, or you can mark this as relative, where you can set up the number of minutes. So say, for example, 60 minutes, which means if an employee doesn't punch out within 60 minutes of their punch-out time, the application will automatically punch them out. Resume work. You can enable facial authentication every time a user needs to resume work. Time off settings. Enable time of requisition. This will allow the technicians to request time off from the mobile application. Set cutoff period. You can set the number of days of the cutoff period. Set a maximum number for the time off period. You can set the maximum number for the time off period. Set the maximum number of consecutive days. You can set the maximum number of consecutive days that are allowed. Set maximum days allowed in a month. You can set the maximum days allowed in a month. And next, you have timesheet approvals. You can enable timesheet approvals as yes, so that all timesheet approvals for all users are generated automatically from the back end. You can then mark the submission as yes. As I mentioned, all the timesheet approvals will be enabled automatically. Finally, you can choose the time off submission. It can be weekly, fortnightly, or monthly so that the timesheets are created on that basis. You can then select the day of the month to automatically generate timesheets. Next, let us move on to employee settings. Every time an employee is created, you can select a prefix that is used for that particular employee's creation. Can field executives upload files? Marking this as yes will give your field team the ability to upload files. Enable hourly labor charges. You can mark that as yes and enter a default hourly labor charge. This lets you enter the respective round-off for calculations. For example, if a job takes 30 minutes, you can set it to round off to an hour so that the respective labor charges are calculated accordingly. Finally, you have shift management. Can field executives edit shifts? You can mark that as yes, so the technicians can manage shifts from their mobile applications. Maximum number of days of shift scheduling. You can set that to 30 so that they can manage their shift for 30 days at a time. Request approval for the shift. Shift request can be set to yes, so that once they create a new shift or they update their shift, the team leader or the respective in charge can be responsible for approving that. Next is quotes and invoice settings. Like other modules, you can set a default prefix and default remarks for all quotations. Allow customer to accept quotes. You can set this to yes. Then the customer is given the option to accept the quote. Auto-convert quote to invoice. Once the quote has been accepted, it automatically is converted to an invoice. Set expiry period for a quotation. Once the quote is generated, it automatically expires in the set number of days. Get customer signature and approval, so marking this as yes will require the customer to digitally sign the quotation before they can accept that. Can field executive create quotations? This field will allow field technicians to create quotations. Can field executives access all quotes? Marking this as yes will give field technicians access to all quotations in the system. Allow field executives to view quote only in job. This gives the option to only view the quotations of the jobs that have been assigned to the technician. Allow customers to request for change. This will give the customers an option to request for change once a quote has been sent to them and send that back to you so that you can make those changes and update the quotation according to the customer's request. Allow sending public links. This can be marked as yes so that a public link along with the quotation can be sent. Require line item approval. This can be set to yes, so that the individual items that have been sent in a quote can be approved individually by the customer rather than approving the quote as a whole. Allow deposit on quote. This can be marked as yes, and a threshold amount can be entered. So anytime the quotation's value crosses the threshold amount, you can set either a percentage or a fixed amount to be collected as a deposit. Allow payments. You can mark that as yes and accept payments for your quotes. Allow sending payment links to customers. You can mark that as yes. Payment mode facilitators. You can set up which payment mode is selected by default. You can go with whatever payment mode that is created in the system. And if you have a Stripe integration, you can set that payment facilitator later as Stripe so that you can generate public payment links using these third-party payment processor. Allow field executives collect payment. So marking that as yes will allow the field executives to use the mobile application to collect payments on the field. Allow sending receipts to customers. This can be marked as yes, so that you will be able to send or receive to the customer once the payment has been completed. Default email template for quotations. Once an email template has been created, the same can be used as a default template whenever an email is being sent out to the customer for a quotation. The same set of options are available for the invoice settings. Next, we will look into contract settings. Default prefix. You can set up a default prefix. Default remarks. You can set up default remarks. Require approval from the customer. So if that's marked as yes, you will require the customer to provide approval once contract has been generated. Allow sending public link to customers. You can mark that as yes, so that when you're sending a contract out to the customer, you can send a public link. Next comes miscellaneous settings under which you can tag the respective business pages. You can set up your Google business page, your Facebook business page, your Twitter business page, or your Yelp business page. You can then call on these links in the product and set up emails to your customers. If you have any data that you would like to import into Zuper, such as customers, jobs, assets, or parts and services, you can use the Data Import module to bring them into Zuper in a single click. To do this, go to the Settings tab and click on the Data Import button. This will take you to the Data Import page. Here you can select the respective module, which could be one-off jobs, recurring jobs, customers, organizations, properties, employees, products, or assets. Select the respective module and then click on the type of conflict resolution. If there is a similar contact that has the same value between both of them, you can either do nothing, merge those two contacts together, or skip them. In this case, you can mark that as skip and then make it a unique field. This can be a default field or a custom field. In this case, you can say it's a default field, and in the default field, you can specify that the email address of the customer must be unique. Now that you've set the criteria, you can go ahead and download the template. You can either use a template with examples or you can use the template in general. Click on the examples and it will download the respective template in an Excel format. Now you can open the respective Excel file, enter the required details in the Excel file, and then you can just go ahead and re-upload the template in Zuper and all the information will be shared. You can use the same Excel file and upload that back to Zuper, so that all those customers are added to the product. Now click Upload. The respective customers are automatically updated to Zuper. The same process applies to the other modules as well. You can download the template for either properties or jobs or assets or products. You can use the Excel file to enter all the data, and you can re-upload the same Excel file back to the product and the data will be imported into Zuper. Next, let us dive into custom roles in Zuper. By default, Zuper has 3 roles for their employees: admin, field executive, and team leader. Your admins have complete access to the product and all configurations. The team leader has access to the complete product and the configurations, but the data is restricted only to certain customers that are only assigned to the respective team. Field executives have access to data and the mobile application that has been assigned to them. Using custom rules, you can further define these roles and the permissions that have been given to the admin, team leaders, and field executives. So what you can do using these custom roles is restrict access to certain modules or certain actions so that the respective user that has this role doesn't have that permission. To create a custom role, you can click on the Custom Rules under Settings, and you can click on the New Custom Role. This will take you to the New Role page. In this case, let's create a new rule called Finance. You're going to create a user who has access only to the Quotations and Invoices module, and you can also specify if they need to do only certain actions. So now that you have provided a name for the respective role, give a description with the same value and go to the Quotes module. In the Quotes module, select All Actions so that they have permission to perform all actions on quotes, and then select All in the Invoice module. So in any case, if you don't need that user to perform certain actions or the respective module again. In this case, if you don't want these users to collect payments, you can turn that off and save this role. So any user that has been assigned this respective role right now will neither have permission to collect payments, nor can they view any other modules apart from the Quote and Invoices module. So based on your requirement, you can tweak these roles so that the users only have permission to do what they're required to do, and other permissions or other modules are not visible. Next, you can create a holiday in Zuper. To access holiday settings, you can go to the bottom of the settings page and click on Holidays. Here, you can define any holidays you would like to use in your organization. To do so, you can click on New Holiday. You can select a name for the holiday. In this case, let us create a holiday called Christmas. You can select the date for that. You can click on the date, go to December, and mark December 25 as Christmas. Then you have an option that asks if jobs can be assigned on this date. If you mark it as no, jobs will not be assigned on this particular day. Following that, you can select if this particular holiday is going to be for all employees or if it's going to be for specific teams. If you say yes, it's going to apply to all employees. If you say no, you can select which team it applies to. In this case, you can select yes, so it's applied to all employees. You can click on Create and the respective holiday will be created. You will not be able to assign jobs to any users on this given day. We hope this gives you insight into the process of creating holidays in Zuper. We certainly hope that you find the demonstration helpful. If you have any questions, please reach out to us or click on the link in the description below to schedule a personalized demo with us. Thank you and have a great day.